Astrology Talk podcast um, with me, Christina Rodenbeck, and my dear friend and colleague, Sally Kirkman from sallykirkman.com. Um, and this month, we're going to be talking about Cancer season and the end of July, June, and the beginning of July, OBS, and the solstice and Uranus going into Gemini and all kinds of stuff.
Mm,
Um, but first we need to talk about where we've just come from. Sally,
we
how
do.
has June been for you
Hello,
so
everybody.
far? Hello.
Hello. Well, I was trying to make sense of it in my head and think, what am I going to talk about? I think it's been very Gemini. I've felt kind of there's been this nervous energy going on, kind of a lot of, anxiety about stuff. It's not felt kind of calm, steady, relaxed at all. And if I'm honest, it's whizzed by. That's the other thing. It's gone so quickly. Um, so yeah, I did go on retreat at the start of Gemini season. So I came into Gemini season feeling quite unstressed. But I think I've ended Gemini season feeling quite stressed, actually. That's my experience, Christina. What about you?
I would say that it's been incredibly busy, high energy. The Mars Uranus square has been insane. Um, we're recording this on a few days before the 18th, which is when this podcast goes out. And of course, the
Mm,
world is seems to be in turmoil.
yeah.
Um, and the kind of the sort of end game of Uranus going through Taurus seems to me incredibly, it's popping off. Let's put it like that. It's popping off.
Yeah, and it's not, and also I think it's the end game of Mars through Leo, isn't it? Because that
Absolutely.
really started in November 2024. I mean, it's been this long retrograde phase of Mars going through Leo. And just to sort of put this in a little bit into context of what's happening in the world, both Trump and Netanyahu have Mars at 26 Leo. So they're having their Mars return. Trump's ascendant is also 29 Leo. So they're right in the blaze of this Mars Uranus clash kicking off.
Yeah. And, you could say, and this is true, when you have that kind of retrograde, that Mars has been
Yeah.
gathering energy during this kind of from since November, going back and gathering energy. He's all rested. He's been got his stuff and now he's releasing it. And it's happening with this square from Uranus.
Mm.
Um, so when as soon as Mars leaves um Leo, let's hope that things calm down a bit, but I'm not holding my breath.
I mean, that's on the 17th of June, isn't it? So it's
Yeah.
just before this podcast goes live. So we may see a shift. But yeah, Mars is going out of Leo in style, clashing with Uranus, and Uranus going out of Taurus in style. So anyone who's got, planets angles right at the end of the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, there's a lot of action. There's a lot of impulse. So be wary of what you leap into as well. I mean, I think we talked about this last time as well.
Yeah, but
Oh,
also, I mean, you know, on a I don't know, I can't even say a positive note, but on a sort of more upbeat note, things, the doors may blow off, things may be opened up to you, I think,
mm,
with this clash of these two. If you're,
yeah.
try not to send your missiles to
Mm,
another country, direct your
mm,
missiles at another country. Don't do that. Do something else
yeah.
with this powerful surge of energy that we're getting at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is also, on a personal note, it is a time to be letting go of stuff as well, isn't it? Shedding
Mm.
stuff, discarding, because we're right in this theme of endings and new beginnings. There's all these major planets leaving one sector of the zodiac and moving afresh into a new one. So I think on a personal level, really think of it as that. What are you discarding? What are you splitting off from? What are you leaving behind? As we move into this new season as well. It's a new season, isn't it? Cancer
Yeah.
season. It's the start of the solstice, and it's the start of a new 3-month chapter, thinking of it that way.
And Jupiter is on the solstice point this year, pretty
Yeah,
much,
it is.
which is really interesting. So it's magnified. The whole concept of solstice, which is, in the northern, you know, um, countries, well, as in, north of the equator, it's high noon, isn't it? This is high
Mm,
noon.
yeah.
Great movie, by the way, Gary Cooper.
Mm,
Um, uh, so we're at a very magnified high noon.
mm.
And from this point, of course, I always hate it when people say, "Oh, from this point, it's all downhill towards winter," because I think it's actually the opening of the season.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
it's the opening. It's like the summer season begins,
Yeah,
really,
it
really.
is. It is. And we get the Indian summer always in September, October, don't we, as we go into the equinox. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's the beginning of summer, height of summer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not even the height yet.
Mm,
Although it's the height of the sun is at its highest,
yeah.
but astrologically, what the solstice means, is opened by the sign Cancer, which is a
Yeah.
cardinal sign. Cardinal signs begin the season. We're
Mm,
coming out of Gemini, which is the transition sign from spring to summer, and then we come into this summer, which is really full summer is that Cancer season that we're coming into, and then August as well.
mm.
Leo season, of
The
course,
Leo season. Yeah.
it's the full summer, fixed. It's the fixed sign of, of the sun
Yeah.
is real. That's the throbbing heart of summer.
Yeah, and I often think, it's Leo season when a lot of people go on holiday. It's the,
Yeah.
school holidays. That is really sort of let's go and bask in the sun and get some
Mm.
summer sun. So yeah, we're moving into that in Cancer season though.
Mm.
Um, it is traditionally it's interesting going into this new season because of what's happened with Jupiter. I mean, Jupiter's already there, isn't it? Almost
Yeah.
paving the way for Cancer season, and it's going to be intensified with the sun coming in. So, there's homes, family, food, nourishment, all those things are kind of foreground. And moving into Cancer season, it's about how you nurture yourself. What do you need? What comforts you? And very much a time of family. It's interesting that we're just trying to organize a big family get together already.
Mm.
Jupiter's gone into Cancer. It's like, when can we all get together? That kind
Mm.
of energy of meeting up and gathering. I can already sort of feel it building.
And of course, Cancer season is those big national holidays. The 4th of
Yeah.
July in the
4th
States,
of
14
July.
Juillet in France, these are
Yeah.
celebrations of the tribe,
Yeah.
tribal celebrations. I'm sure there are many, many more across the world in this
Mm,
Cancer season. And Cancer is um, can be very nationalistic. So we're going to see this
mm,
with Jupiter in Cancer, there is going to be an expansion and magnification of nationalism, but
mm.
also perhaps patriotism, which is a slightly different thing, I
Yeah.
think. And
Yeah.
personally, I think a better thing. I'm not keen on nationalism, but patriotism, yes. And I notice, for example, the No Kings rallies in the United States. Those are patriotic. Those are rallies of patriots um, saying, what is our national identity? What does it mean
Mm,
to be an American? And it
mm.
certainly doesn't mean that you have some orange-faced person in the White House acting like a king.
Yeah, with his Leo ascendant,
Yeah, that's finished.
sign of royalty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
he is a king,
yeah.
and naming all those things after himself and all of that. This
Mm,
is the whole reason the United States was formed
mm.
was it's not to have kings.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's interesting currently. So we have the king in the White House behaving like a king, and certain other people around the world as well. These
Mm,
authoritarians are essentially kings of various kinds
mm.
because they're behaving autocratically, not democratically. And we have Pluto and Aquarius right now,
Yeah,
which is the counter to that.
yeah,
It's
it
like
is.
the dark is rising, just like you can't, this is a process and it may take a long time, but there
Mm,
is a counter to the kings.
yeah, and it's people power is one of the Pluto and Aquarius themes. People power, the collective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Standing,
That's
and the opposite sign, Aquarius is the opposite sign to Leo, the kingly sign.
I think
Yeah.
Aquarius is very democratic as well. I mean, it's like
Mm,
democracy versus autocracy. That is
yeah.
um Leo versus Aquarius.
Yeah.
And this is it's a clash of ideologies,
Yeah.
but it's happening now.
Mm,
It's not even it's going to unfold as a process into the future, but
mm,
it's kicking off now.
yeah, and it's going to happen. I mean, we're really going to see this over the summer as the
Mhm.
personal planets move into Leo, and oppose that Pluto. There's just I want to say one more thing actually about what I thought, really noticed this talking the bromance, Musk and Trump falling apart. I thought the timing of that
Yeah,
was,
right.
it was like Jupiter was leaving Gemini, Trump's sign, moving into Cancer, Musk's sign. I mean, it was just such, it was such classic astrology in a way. Oh, here they are, who's best, who's best, and the bromance fell apart on that as Jupiter shifted from Gemini.
Yeah, I mean, God. We'll see. I mean, that's also an unfolding thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it's interesting when you have a Jupiter transit, and folks, if you want to sort of track it with the politics. So basically, Trump has had a Jupiter transit. He wins the presidency under a Jupiter transit. He gets into
Mm,
the White House under a Jupiter transit. And Jupiter's because it's been in Gemini, his sun sign. Um, and he also he's also often paired up with people. But because he's an eclipse person, you get into bed with Trump and you're going to be eclipsed, right?
yeah.
He's going to eclipse you.
Yeah.
So, you're playing not with fire, you're playing with like a void, right?
Mm,
You're playing with a
mm,
with an emptiness that's
mm,
very dangerous that can suck you in with a black hole if you're getting into bed with Trump.
mm.
And
Oh,
so that's
no, thank you.
sorry.
The language,
The
really. The
language,
image,
the
no.
image I can see just getting sucked in by a black hole and between the sheets. Ugh. Okay. So, but now, right? So that's happened. All of that Trumpiness has been magnified, but now Jupiter moves into Cancer and it moves into Musk's sign. So we'll
Yeah,
see what how the next 12 months unfolds for him.
yeah.
And Jupiter it's exalted in Cancer, is it not?
Yes, it is.
It's very powerful in Cancer, but as
Mm,
we know, with exalted or planets very strong in a place, that it can go too much. So
yeah.
he will not be out of the public eye for a start. You can
Mm,
become very magnified yourself. Your presence is magnified. It's overwhelming. It's too big, and
mm,
that's interesting because Musk is already overwhelming and too big. There's too much of him around.
yeah. Yeah. And I think with Jupiter out of control, you've got to really be careful of playing God. It's the arrogance can really kick in. I'm better than everyone else. It's real bravado and bluster, isn't it?
And risk taking,
Um, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
big
Risk
risk taking.
taking. Mm,
Which is often paid off for um, Musk, but it did not pay off the risk taking of becoming part of the sort of Doge, doing
yeah.
all that. What benefit has it actually given him?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing. He's got
Mm,
nothing out of it. Speaking of
mm,
getting into bed with a black hole,
mm. Yeah, he's lost a lot, actually.
exactly. He's
Mm,
lost a ton,
mm,
including credibility.
yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting start, isn't it, with Jupiter's move into Cancer because it runs into Saturn and Neptune in Aries as well. So it can't really get going in Cancer. So, again, wherever Jupiter's falling in your horoscope, you may have to get through some obstacles or things coming up against you before Jupiter can really get going in Cancer.
So, I do you have any plans for your Jupiter and Cancer year, Sal? Are you thinking about this at all?
Well, it falls in my home and family sector. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm thinking what next for home?
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm planning a move. So that's, it's classic. It's
Yeah.
classic. I think I'm thinking about where I'm going to live, what next on that front.
Mm.
That's my Jupiter in Cancer adventure coming up.
Yay.
So, and what about you?
Well, actually, I was as I was looking around for the microphone and stuff for this episode, I was I was thinking I know what I'm going to do with Jupiter and Cancer. I'm because actually quite a lot of it will be in my 12th.
Hmm.
I thought I really need to sort out my family. All my parents, everybody, people who listen to this podcast may know that my parents died a few years ago, and I had to
Mm,
take a ton of paperwork and drawings and watercolors and stuff belonging to my parents, and I really haven't had time to sort through it.
mm,
So I'm
mm,
going to take a very deep dive into the tribal
mm,
story,
mm,
history,
mm.
and just to actually organize it.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. That'd be
Yeah,
interesting what other people are doing with this. I mean, cancer it's about legacy past as well, isn't it? As well
yeah,
as these themes of home, family, tribe, the country you live in, or what home means to you as well. I mean, these are the big themes. And, I think also hugely important for me, Jupiter in Cancer, the great protector.
yeah,
It is almost seeing as the world as, at its best, it's the world is one big family. And I think sometimes having that perspective can be really helpful in counteracting what's going on in the world right now. So we'll see what
yeah,
happens.
yeah. It's interesting that Brian Wilson, Beach Boys, has passed. He died as
Mm,
Jupiter went into Cancer, which is I think his Jupiter return, and I think his sun's like at the very end of Gemini. So
mm,
he's surfing along,
mm, mm,
and so much of his music is about prayer. I know it's about beaches in California and beauty and girls and all that, but the actual sound of it is an incredible um hymn
mm,
almost to the glory of being here on this planet and to
mm,
sort of what's
mm,
above. There's a great one
mm.
called Prayer, which I just love. I think it's on
Yeah.
Smile.
Okay.
Well, I love a lot of it. I mean,
Yeah.
God only knows, um,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
Uh, but I love the fact that that Jupiter came along and has swept him up
Yeah.
and taken him onto the next into the great surfboard in the sky, whatever
Yeah. Well,
cliche you want to
yeah.
come out with.
And it is, I mean, you often see Jupiter, don't you, when people pass from the physical plane into what lies beyond. I mean, there's that sense of it. Sometimes Jupiter comes along because it's a relief from some people are suffering on the physical plane. But the other thing is with people who have had big fame, it kind of reignites that. It blows it up
Yeah.
again. It reminds us of them. It brings them back to glory almost, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Which, makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense. We're sort of
I,
honoring them again and,
yeah.
respecting them.
Yeah, and he's got Uranus rising as well, and he's about to have his Uranus
Mm,
return.
mm,
So it's everything, it's like
everything. Yeah.
um
A lot going on.
yeah, a lot going on. Should we we've sort of talked about the solstice a little bit already, but is
Mm.
there anything more that you want to say about that?
The solstice chart. So, yeah, 21st of June. In the UK, the sun moves into Cancer. It'll be the 20th of June in other parts of the world. Um, yeah, and as the sun moves into Cancer, of course, Jupiter's there. Sun at 0 degrees, Jupiter at 2 degrees Cancer. So, the solstice chart has this lovely Sun Jupiter conjunction on the cusp of the second house in London. What's that about? We spending a lot.
Oh my God, our chancellor, yeesh, is so confused about what's important um in life. But I also notice I like about this solstice chart is it also makes a very nice sextile to the moon, doesn't it?
It really nice, yeah. Also at 0 degrees, 0 degrees Taurus. I mean,
Mm.
quite interesting that, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Sun
love a
and
Cancer Taurus combination.
mm, mm. Yeah, there's some sort of balance there or stability, security, isn't there, when the two are working together in those signs, Cancer Taurus, that are about feeding yourself, roof over your head, the basics of life, bringing things back to basics with the Taurus Cancer. It's quite nice.
Yeah, what I don't like is that it's making a square to Saturn.
Saturn
So,
and Neptune. Oh,
again,
well,
good
let's do.
news, bad news, right?
Yeah, and that's it's that this has been quite a big theme, hasn't it? I mean, it's interesting. Jupiter's um running into the Saturn Neptune square just as we move into Cancer season. Of course, the sun runs into them as well. I mean, I do think it's playing out kind of, there's Cancer's the homes up against Saturn authority. So it's all the stuff that's going on with immigration, the protests in the States, but also trying to get food and humanitarian aid to Gaza has been a huge theme. And again, that's been blocked, it's been stopped. So, you can see the theme playing out collectively as well. And the planets have got to get through this square. But then Jupiter is going to move on quite swiftly and won't be caught up with the Saturn Neptune again. So let's see if that, then Jupiter starts to be able to flow more freely.
It's really interesting. While you were talking about the Gaza flotilla, I was just thinking one of the things I've really noticed is that Ceres, which you really do associate with food folks, um, on a very basic level, has been in Aries for when since Saturn went in with Ceres, and they were at the end of Pisces together as well. She's been very involved in this Saturn Neptune
Mm.
square. And I was just thinking, and it's in Aries, and I thought that's the weaponization of food aid that we've seen.
Mm.
It's been turned into a weapon of war.
Yeah.
So let's just hope that Ceres gets through there fast. I can't remember
Mm.
when she's leaving,
How
but
long does she stay in the sign
usually
usually?
4 months.
Okay.
But I will just do a check actually. It's four
Mm.
months,
Mm.
but unless she goes retrograde, in which case, um, yeah, I thought so. She's going to be retrograde in Aries. So she doesn't really seem to leave until 2026.
Okay.
So she's there a long
Mm.
time.
Yeah.
So this theme of the weaponization of food aid is going to carry on
Yeah. And I think also that's part of the Jupiter and Cancer theme for a whole year as well, isn't it? Jupiter
completely.
is global, it's the foreign connections, and Cancer is this, homes and food,
Mm.
and sharing that. So, I mean, yeah, the two are quite powerful, going to be quite powerful for the next year.
Well, I mean, speaking of like food, and so we see that starkly in Gaza.
Mm.
Um, but I actually, thinking about this, think there may be issues around food in general,
Mm.
with that long period of series in Aries. It's not a great sign for her.
Mm.
Um,
Mm. She needs to get into Taurus, doesn't she?
she's desperate to get to Taurus. Oh my God, one of her favorite places.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Mm.
yeah, and also, mothers in the front line, I would say,
Mm.
of a lot of
Mm.
stuff. Mothers, motherhood,
Mm.
reproduction,
Yeah.
all of those things are weaponized. So we see, you know, at, not just women's bodies, but specifically the reproductive part of women's bodies
Yeah.
being weaponized
Yeah.
and being abused and
Mm.
used. And I'm just
Mm.
thinking about, abortion rights, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
So gosh, I'm going gloomtastic. I'm going to have to think of something great to say. Yay, Jupiter in Cancer. Mothers are going to fight back, right?
Well, there's
Um,
there's going to be there's a lot of fighting back, isn't there?
yes,
There is a lot of fighting back. I mean, we talk interesting in this chart, Pluto Aquarius on the midheaven. Is that the power to the people protests kicking in more? I think it's partly to do with that. But it's also the Saturn in Aries era. I think that's, up standing up against authority is Saturn in Aries is like, this is not okay. It's a fierce placing.
it
So
says stop,
it
doesn't
says
it?
stop, doesn't it? Enough. We're individuals. We've got human rights, and so it's this. And what's it going to
And
be?
another thing.
And another thing, I mean, the Saturn Neptune, early degrees Aries, working alongside Pluto now, early degrees Aquarius. And of course, we'll have Uranus coming into Gemini. So these outer planets are, they're kind of amassing, I feel a bit like they're amassing power. They're
Mm.
amassing power. And they want people to stand up against what's going on. So it's quite interesting astrology moving forward.
I hope that's what they want. I never know what the planets exactly want. They are mysterious. They move in mysterious ways. However, I agree. It's really, really important to emphasize that Saturn and Neptune are working together with Pluto. Okay.
Mm,
So wherever
mm,
those planets are in your chart, these planets are actually working together and they are dynamic. It's a dynamic,
yeah.
active. It's not about passively sitting around waiting for things to happen. And what I find really interesting about Pluto and this Jupiter, we're still on the solstice, folks, by the way, still thinking about this solstice. Pluto makes a quincunx or an inconjunct to the solstice chart. And
Mm,
now quincunx is in the normal run of things, it may not be that important, but Plutonian quincunxes are really important. This is the Lord who wears the helmet of invisibility,
mm,
blindsiding
yeah.
somebody or blindsiding the solstice. So it can be something coming up from seemingly nowhere or something that is surprising or an unexpected. It's not like a shock in the same way as Uranus, but it's like, well, it can be. Um, but it's like something coming from nowhere.
Mm,
An example which I may have used before is that my partner, David, was pushed off his bicycle by a stranger into traffic when Pluto made a quincunx to his sun.
mm,
You
mm,
wouldn't have seen it from any other
mm,
transit except for that
mm,
transit. So we've
mm.
got that transit globally, so to speak,
Yeah.
um, at the solstice. And it's not necessarily um, bad, right? It's just a thing. So it's not, I'm
Yeah.
not putting any value onto this. It's just, it could be bad, could be good.
Yeah.
Furthermore, sorry,
Yeah.
it's actually on the point of a yard, the Pluto,
Mm,
from because it's getting an aspect from Mars at the same time. So there's
mm,
definite action around this solstice, which is
mm.
maybe surprising.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the sol. I love the solstice because we got the moon at 0 Taurus, Sun, Jupiter 0 2 Cancer, Mars at 2 Virgo. There's this lovely kind of connection between those planets, but then that powerful Pluto. I'm thinking I'm thinking that's about. I think there's going to be a lot of protests. I think it's about people rising up.
I think there's
In
going to be a lot of protest too, and I
Yeah,
think it's going to be it sets the theme for the summer.
yes, yeah,
And because this is why the solstice chart is so important, it sets the theme for the following 3 months. And this is back to what we were saying at the beginning. Actually, guys, this isn't the height of summer, yeah, and beginning of the end. This is the
mm,
beginning of summer, right?
mm,
The beginning of this
yeah,
season and the opening gambit of this season is this mini grand trine between the sun, Jupiter, Mars, the moon, and
mm,
actually Chiron's in there as well at making very interesting and very, very tight aspects
mm,
to the Pluto and Neptune Saturn. So we have this really intense
yeah.
and productive. It's not stuck. Okay.
No, it's
Um,
dynamic, isn't it? It's dynamic. It's shifting. It's moving.
yeah.
Yeah, and also just I'm talking about this a lot. I'm getting so many Aries clients, or
Mhm.
people with Aries, and looking at this Saturn Neptune that's come into Aries. They're going to be working together June, July, August. Saturn leaves
Mhm.
Aries beginning of September. November, Neptune leaves Aries a little bit later, but then
October.
that yeah, October, November, and then they're preparing to come back in next February. So this three, we've got that Saturn Neptune energy seeding something. What are you starting? And this seems to be such a key theme for Aries people at the moment. So many have got new ideas about these complete new beginnings, but it's going to take time. And this is sort of experimenting with it, sowing seeds, so to see what can flourish early next year. So I think
It's
it's
definitely,
interesting.
it's definitely experimental, isn't it? And,
Mm,
you know, I've had some people come to me recently who are really kind of losing it, actually. And that's also a danger with that Neptune Saturn. is that
Mm.
it's can dissolve things like really quickly, depending on where it hits your chart.
Yeah.
So look for support. If something's dissolving really quickly, where are you looking for the
Yeah.
support? Partly, possibly the Pluto, believe it or not. That Pluto can be really supportive.
Yeah.
Um, or in
Yes, yeah, reaching out to people. Because this is, I mean, Saturn, Neptune, we talk about, I often talk about how it can be sort of manifesting dreams, making things real. But the flip side of it is guilt, shame, paranoia, fear, doubt. I mean, it can really, it can take you away. You can lose yourself on it. So, maybe that Pluto in Aquarius is about getting support from others so you don't feel on your own, which is Aries as well.
Well, I would say specifically, it's also about getting organizations and groups.
Yeah.
So, there may be powerful groups or organizations that can support you and help you. So, for
Mm.
example, if you have been kidnapped by ICE, right,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm.
a bit of a Saturn thing to happen because
Mm.
it's cold, um, then or not if you've been kidnapped. If you've been kidnapped by ICE, I'm really sorry to hear it. But to prevent yourself getting kidnapped by ICE, make sure that you are networked, okay? That you're
Mm.
carrying, uh, this is to my American friends, that you are carrying your passport, your papers, but also that people know where you are all the time,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Even
Mm.
I have got, my Find My Friends thing going now for some
Yeah.
Americans because I want to know where they are and so just in case.
Mm.
And it's interesting that this is also, this the reason I'm talking about it as a network is that this is what Aquarius is. It's like the people that
Mm.
the network that make sure
Yeah.
that you're all keeping in touch. And that's the power of it.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it's super interesting astrology, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
what do you think about so Mars is going to be in Virgo for the coming month.
mm.
Um, and
Mm.
it's like a finally Mars is getting out of that
Mm.
Leo area.
Yeah, it's Martin Lear's volatile. It's dramatic. It wants to take center stage. In a fire sign. It's very different in Virgo. I often think of, Mars in Virgo is kind of, there's a more design aspect to it. You're paying attention to details. You're getting things sorted. It can be about getting paperwork done, but you're paying attention to the things that matter more. It's an earthy Mars, so it's a very, very different energy.
Mm, mm. And about time too,
Yeah, that
frankly.
time too. It's been way too blooming long. I'm really, this Mars in Lear's just been bonkers and crazy. I'm really looking forward to Mars moving into Virgo.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
I'm really hoping things may just feel more settled and you can feel a bit more grounded and, the focus is on stuff that's not so volatile.
Yeah, except that Virgo is the mutable earth sign. So it's got that strange, quite can be quite anxious energy.
Yeah, it still can.
Yeah.
It
Um,
still
but
can.
but
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah, yeah.
Solution oriented rather than drama oriented. And that's the thing is what
Yes.
are the solutions? So Mars comes into Virgo on whatever it is,
17th of June.
17th. And it's going to be there this whole season,
Mm.
right? And like we were saying, just finally, thank God, getting away from the fieriness of Leo and the drama. And it's like, what are the practical solutions?
Mm.
And try not to get too anxious, but be solution oriented is the other
Mm.
part of that, I think.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I can't, Aries in particular, it's moving into health and body. It's about taking care of yourself too, and doing the things that ground you.
And doing the things that
Um,
you can do, right?
yeah.
That's the thing. It's like we can worry about stuff that we can't do anything about,
Mm.
but there are things that you can take care of, like
Mm.
eating well,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah, and getting rest and slowing things down as well, getting rid of the stuff that doesn't matter and dealing with the things that are good for you. I mean, interesting for Virgo too, Mars moving into Virgo. This, I think we may see more Virgo types being quite proactive, actually, wanting to be of service, moving into their kind of archetype of that, wanting to serve and help others with Mars there as well.
Well, I
Shall
hope
I?
our prime minister does that. Oh, we
Oh,
have a
oh,
Virgo prime minister
we
here.
do. We do. I hope he gets his ducks in a row. I'm going to stop this chart and we're going to talk about talk about what else is happening in Cancer season.
Well, I mean, the big news. Well, we've got the this new moon, which is
Yeah,
coming up, which is kind of folds in with the solstice chart. So the what date is the new moon?
it's the 25th, and I am going to share it as well for those who are looking, um, because I'm sure people on YouTube are wanting to see the astrology as well. Um, yeah, it's on the 25th. So it's nice. I mean, I love Sun Jupiter conjunctions. I really like them. You know, there's the sun illuminates, Jupiter expands. I've found that there's often an experience of good fortune or some kind of luck that kicks in on the Sun Jupiter. And at this new moon, I mean, the Sun Jupiter conjunction's on the 24th, then there's the new moon on the 25th, which means that both the Sun, the moon, and Jupiter at this new moon have all gone past the square to Saturn Neptune. They're
Yeah,
moving away
hooray.
from it, they're gathering strength together. And I think that is really, notice in your life what happens on the 24th, 25th of June. Where do you feel that you can let go of some of the things that have been holding you back or the obstacles, the limitations? Where can you kind of gather strength on this new moon and moving forward into the rest of Cancer season?
Yeah, take a pause, breathe in, get ready to go because actually it makes a great aspect to Mars in Virgo. This is helpful for
Mm,
Virgos, obviously,
mm,
helpful for Cancerians.
mm,
It's practical, it's solution oriented. And as you say, all of these guys have now moved beyond that square and they won't be coming back, right? So
mm.
Jupiter sometimes goes back and forth, but it's not coming back to that square.
Yeah.
It's moving right on. So this square is harsh, intense, but it is not lingering. Let's put
Mm,
it like that, which is a
yeah.
very great relief. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, we can breathe. What are we actually going to do now?
Yeah. And I mean, the other point of that is that both Neptune and Saturn turn retrograde this month. Neptune on 4th of July, Saturn on 13th of July. So just to say that, they're backing off. They're
Yeah.
backing off as well as this, this real. I love the moon, sun, Jupiter together there in that new moon chart. It's a great date. It's what date is it? The 25th. It's midweek. But it'd be a great date to gather people together and do something celebratory on this new moon
Or to
during this period.
plant a tree or something. It's got
Yeah.
real growth potential. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
Anything, when you have a new moon making conjunction to Jupiter, it's like don't plant a sort of tiny shrub. Plant an oak tree.
Yeah.
Something you
Yeah.
want to grow big.
Yeah, or open a soup kitchen. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like feed people
Yeah. Do it
as
obviously the
well.
following day as they start to as the moon starts to sort of separate and starts to grow. But you'll have it's like think of this year, right, from now um until next June as a year where something important is going to grow. And I think for many people, it's like your family is going to grow, right?
Mm.
It's your
Mm.
idea of what your family is, maybe
Mm.
even. So
Or
you
sorry, I was going to say you open your doors to people as well. There's that
yeah.
sense as well. It's and what is family? I know family can be a trigger word for some people, can't it? But it's
Yes,
what family mean to you.
it's not, yeah, so you may literally have a baby, right, or a grandchild, but
Mm.
I'm also thinking about opening your arms to the world
Mm.
and bringing people into your own family
Mm.
or creating families. So it's a wonderful year for creating a family
Mm.
of whatever nature.
Mm.
Shouldn't be a trigger word. It's a beautiful word,
Yeah, it is fun.
but so if you don't like your family of birth, make your own.
Yeah.
Or join one that is like a family, join a tribe.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I mean it's interesting. This is really interesting astrology for Cancer, isn't it? With this new moon Jupiter here.
Mm.
moving away from Saturn, Neptune in your career and vocation sector for Cancer. So it's kind of, what are you leaving behind or turning away from so you can shine? I mean, it may be for Cancers that this is a really big time where they're sort of reprioritizing what's important in the world. It may be that family come first during this period, or they put the ones they love first, or they want to shine in a personal way. They don't want to give themselves to a corporation or whatever. It's like, this is my time. Who am I? Where can I, shine in the world?
Yeah, said the Aries rising. Why? Because I'm kind of thinking one thing that Cancerians should actually know is that Saturn on your MC can be quite a good time for career harvest. You know,
Yeah. Yes, it can. It can. Yeah,
yeah,
it can play out either way, can't it?
yes, it can.
It can play out either way, and it depends, and this is like, if you're talking with a client, it's about the context of their lives, where they at. Are they looking to, retire and move on, or do they want to climb the ladder and be big boss?
Yeah. Or, it's often you see that like when someone graduates from college, they get the Saturn on the midheaven. It's like, you've really achieved something here, and the
Yeah.
same with the retirement. You've really achieved something. Or becoming a parent, here we are.
Yeah.
You know, you're able to put the big pants on.
Yeah. Or you
Um,
get made redundant with Saturn on the midheaven.
yeah, exactly. It goes
Hopefully
the
a
other
big
way.
pot of money coming in.
Mm. It's
Perhaps.
definitely kind of turning point
Yeah.
anyway.
Mm. It
Um,
is. It
and
is.
I feel, Sally, that this, thinking about this new moon and the solstice and this week, this final week in June, I think for a lot of people, it's a turning point of some kind. When you look at
Yeah.
this, you think, actually, we have turning points in astrological ones, but there's many ways. So we've talked about how for Cancer, it may be like a career one or a personal one. But I mean, for say, I don't know, Capricorn, it looks like there may be a turning point for you as well to do with your relationships.
Mm.
And in
Mm.
fact, the one thing that Capricorn should keep in mind is this is a relationship year. The
Yeah.
others have Jupiter behind them. So you may meet a
Yeah.
lot of people in the coming year, or you may have really relationships that really grow, or you may fall in love actually.
Yeah.
At the same
Yeah.
time, there's something about your family that is finishing a chapter and starting a new
Mm.
one in a quite
Mm.
an underlined kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Libra as well important because this
Yeah,
is the Cancer triple conjunction falls in your career sector, vocation sector. Um, and in a way, it's a time really to put that future path first for Libra, because the Saturn Neptune, it could be someone who helps you in your partnership sector, or it could be that you don't want to be held back by a partner.
exactly.
It's your turn to, this is where I'm going. This is what my big vision is for the year ahead. I need to pursue my goals, and kind of honor that, be honoring of that. So it's this new moon, and on the back of this new moon, it's what are you saying yes to? And also that may be counteracting where people have been saying no, or you've not been able to do something, or you've had rejection. It's like, what are you saying yes to? Where can you flourish?
I,
Where can you grow?
I actually think this is a great new moon for Libras who may have been feeling quite frustrated.
Mm.
Some there may literally be an offer that comes in, a job offer or a relationship, to me, this is very much could be like a marriage for Libra, because there's a consolidation with the Saturn, commitment, and then just joy with the
Mm.
Jupiter Sun on the midheaven. There's something joyful about that.
Mm. Mm.
Particularly for Librans, but for a lot, this is a joyful combination.
Yeah.
It's a frabjous day, especially, I would say that the week that follows, there's this sense of maybe a release from that horrendous square, of these double squares that we've been in, this Uranus Mars square and the Saturn Jupiter square are released after that new moon.
Mm.
And there may be some huge relief or kind of wave.
Mm.
leading up to Uranus moving into Gemini, which is huge.
Yes, yes, it is, isn't it? On the 7th of July. I mean, that
Mm.
happens on the 7th of July. There's a Venus-Uranus conjunction in Taurus on the 4th of July as well. So, Mars has had this last square to Uranus, and then Venus and Uranus come together one last time in Taurus before Uranus moves into a new sign. I'm going to stop this share because we've got quite a bit still to talk about, haven't we?
Yeah, we need to crack on, don't we, Sally? But I think
We,
that the I just to sort of wrap up that bit, that the solstice moves into the new moon, and that energy just flows straight into July, which
mm,
it's like there feels like there's a lot of momentum moving in, and things are, it's I wouldn't necessarily, start anything till just after the new moon, but it feels like a great time to start something.
yeah, it does. And the other key astrology at that point, just to say, is that Mercury moves into Leo on the 26th. And it's going to be in Leo for a long time until early September. And this is because we have our next retrograde coming up, which happens on the 18th of July to August the 11th in Leo. It's going to be completely in Leo. So, for lovely Leos and wherever this Mercury falls, it's a good time to get things moving on the back of this new moon as soon as Mercury's in Leo, before it starts to slow down, ready to turn retrograde again. So
Exactly.
get those Leo projects going, Leos.
Yeah.
Off you go.
And also just to point out that this Mercury retrograde coming up is kind of following up on the Mars retrograde that was in Leo. So it's likely that if there's an area of your life where things were kind of delayed and you had to sort of scramble around that, wherever that Mars retrograde was, Mercury retrograde is coming in not to sort of block you, but to help you kind of go over all the stuff and get the details right
Mm,
and move on. And
mm,
I think I know quite a few Leos who've been feeling very frustrated,
mm,
um, like basically unable to move forward either because of physical stuff or because of paperwork.
mm,
And actually, that seems to me to be all loosening up now.
mm,
And there may be some last bits that you need to do with that Mercury retrograde in your sign, but actually
mm,
consider it a useful thing,
mm,
right? Consider it
mm,
a moment to sort of readjust your direction, get everything sorted out. Um, I can think of one of my great Leo friends who's going to be moving house in September.
mm,
And I can see it's going to be a perfect retrograde for just going through her stuff.
mm, mm. Yeah, and I've got a Leo friend who's actually been waiting to move into a home.
Yeah,
She's been having major work done on it, during all this time. And that's gonna come about now.
yeah,
And there's going to be a lot to do, and also take your time when Mercury
yeah.
turns retrograde. It's actually been Leo retrogrades have been really full on in recent times, haven't they? Because the last Venus, well, there was a Venus retrograde in
Mm,
Leo in
mm,
2023. I
mhm.
think the following year Mercury was again retrograde in Leo, then the Mars retrograde in Leo, and now another Mercury retrograde in Leo. So it
Yeah.
may be that there's been some stop start with something wherever Leo falls in your charts. Quite interesting.
Well, I've noticed that a lot of Leos that I know have had quite a big identity shift
Mm,
over the last few years. They've been changing their
yeah,
identity, and that's
yeah,
meant changing the direction of their lives, even.
yeah, yeah.
One of my friends who's lived here for 40 years is leaving.
Mm, mm,
Um, and that's massive, a
yeah.
massive change, and not just location, but who she is.
Mm, mm. Yeah, so also like Aquarius, it's in your relationship sector. So has there been some on off with relationships or toing and froing with relationships? Where's there been this kind of theme as well going on?
Or
Um,
unsettledness. And actually, you're getting to this point where it's interesting with Aquarius because I can think of some Aquarians literally who that's happened for, who
yeah.
thought they were with one person and then thought, no, I what? Or have been, what was that about?
Mm,
Um,
mm.
but I think that period of indecision is actually, you're going to have a long summer to think about your relationships, actually,
Yeah.
Aquarius. And that's no bad thing because Although you do overthink, that's part of the problem.
Mm.
But it's also
Yeah.
interesting that Leo's had all of these retrogrades over the past few years,
Mm.
and now the Pluto in opposition,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that Aquarius, you probably have more power than you think within these relationships. You felt
Mm.
powerless.
Mm.
Feel the power,
Mm.
Aquarius. Make
Mm.
your own decision. Don't get kind
Yeah.
of pushed into things.
And also for Scorpio, career sector, Leo, vocation, future path. Has there been any toing and froing around that? Just a
Also, Sally,
tad. Just a tad. So possibly, more of a time to kind of reassess, review, rethink what next. It's back.
yeah. But
It's
but I
back.
think that you're kind of getting more settled in what the direction is, and this is like you're dealing with the details now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
thinking about uh, my partner who's basically retrained completely, and he's just
Mm.
got some details to deal with, and
Mm.
it's important to get those right over the summer.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But see,
really, yeah, interesting again.
yeah, yeah. And you've got a long time to deal with it, starting on 26th of June, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, because this the retrograde really kicks in at the end of Cancer season, and then it's fully in Leo.
Mm.
So until August the 11th. But also, let's talk about. I mean, obviously, the next big shift. All these planets have been, crikey, Neptune into Aries, Saturn into Aries, Jupiter into Cancer. This month we get another major shift, Uranus into Gemini on the 7th of July. So it's been in Earth sign Taurus to do with food, money, production since 2018, 2019. It spends about 7 years in one sign. And we've got it moving into Gemini. And like the Saturn and Neptune, it will go back into Taurus in the autumn later this year and then return to Gemini next April 2026. So again, getting used to Uranus in Gemini. So I think it's going to like Gemini, don't you?
I think it's going to love being in Gemini
Yeah.
so much that it's going
Yeah.
to be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a lot of like crazy ideas. Maybe some good, maybe some bad. But
Yeah.
one thing I would recommend for people to just think about the Taurians, and how much change they've had over the last 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I can think of something who just like everything's changed. It's been exciting. It's been quite a ride.
Mm.
Um, and ditto for like look at the Leos, have they had big changes in their careers? Um, so those fixed signs have probably been experiencing quite important changes. And now that level of change
Mm.
is about to start affecting Geminis in particular.
Yeah, and also all the mutable signs
All of
actually.
them.
So Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo, it's starting in a new chapter, major area of your life. It's kicking in. Yeah, and what's coming. Also, it's quite interesting, isn't it? We've got Uranus moving into Gemini. We've already had a year of Jupiter in Gemini. So, there's been focus on this star sign, and now here comes Uranus bringing something fast, innovative, quick. I mean, Uranus just wants to leap in and get things started. We're all going to be flying around in little weird cars by the end of this, aren't we?
I hope so. Little weird cars that are completely non-polluting and very green and are helping the planet. Somehow we're going to be flying around in cars that kind of weave a beautiful atmosphere instead of
Mm,
leaving shit behind.
mm,
It's going to be there are going to
yeah,
be so many ideas
yeah.
about we're going to be communicating in different ways, which
Yes,
is interesting.
really interesting. I mean, new languages I'm expecting. We'll also be communing with aliens.
Aren't we
You know,
already, Sally?
well, some of us are.
Some of us are.
Yeah.
And the other thing about this Uranus moving into an air sign, it's very exciting because I feel Uranus is a very air kind of planet.
Mm, mm,
And theoretically, it rules Aquarius, and it's going to be making a fantastic aspect to
yeah.
Pluto and Aquarius as soon as it gets in there. And this is going to bring in ideas about I think we're going to have some really radical ideas around governance as well, which is an
Mm,
Aquarian thing,
yeah.
around how we organize society,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And these ideas may be experimental. They may be, some of them may be cockeyed, but some of them
Mm,
are going to work. And I
Mm,
keep on thinking about those, those French revolutionaries who had some pretty horrible ideas, like let's cut off everybody's heads with this newfangled guillotine. But they also had brought in some cool things, during those years, like the metric system. You know, what
mm,
what's more clever than that?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and forms of laws, a lot of laws. But
Yeah.
not that Uranus and Gemini makes me think of laws, but great ideas.
Yeah, it is. And Uranus, I often think of as the higher octave of Mercury anyway. They're both communicators. I mean, Uranus does it in a more modern technological way. But yeah, Uranus is just going to be bonkers in Gemini. So, Geminis, what are you up to? Get your inventor's hat on. This is a great time for starting something new.
And also, I mean, I think that, air travel, right? I know
Air
we've already
travel.
mentioned air travel.
Mm,
How is that going to change? Because it's
mm.
it's not good at the moment. It's a horrible polluting thing, which is not fun,
Which is dangerous,
which is dangerous and
frankly.
not very fun. How's that going to
Mm,
change?
mm, yeah.
How is that going to change for the better, please?
Mm,
Maybe we're all going to have these giant sort of balloons with beautiful sails made
mm,
of, I don't know, butterfly wings that we
mm,
float around in instead of horrible airplanes. Um,
yeah. Yeah,
although
yeah.
there is sort of a magic, the magic went out of air travel a long time ago,
Mm,
but it used to have a kind of glamour and magic to it.
yeah, I mean, I know so many people now who don't want to fly. They
I
want to
don't
go
fly.
go over land. I mean, I don't fly a lot because, I just find it really wrong.
Yeah, because it pollutes the
It's
planet, right?
yeah, it's
It's that
wrong.
simple.
It's wrong. These really cheap flights going everywhere. Stop. Um, so we'll see. So
It's
yeah.
about it's about freedom as well, isn't it? Uranus has this sort of sense of
Wow.
freedom and release,
Well,
and especially in Gemini.
at its best, freedom of speech, Uranus and Gemini. But I mean, that seems to be going the opposite way at the moment. We'll see. Um,
Don't you think that's also become kind of like it's a contentious issue, right? Because
mm,
you can say I'm a free speech advocate, and then you think, well, what about you know trolling and bullying
yeah,
speech?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so it's actually complex, and if you didn't have rules about pornography, for instance, where would we be? So it's actually not a black and white issue, is it?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's also the thing about Uranus is that it can be black or white. It can be really flipped from one to the other. Um,
Mm,
it's
mm,
on. Uranus is either on or it's off, and it's about to
mm,
come in and flick the on switch for Geminis.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see as well. So I mean, for all the mutable signs, Virgo, it's in your career sector. Pisces, it's home and family, and Sagittarius, it's relationships in particular. Those are the I think they're the ones that the electricity is going to be it's going to be fizzling. Let's see what happens. I'm going to share another chart
That's very kind of
because
you.
you're welcome. Uh, because we've been talking quite a lot because there's a lot of air energy around still in Gemini season. And we've got one final chart to look at, which is the full moon on the 10th of July, which falls moon in Capricorn. So, Capricorn, this is your full moon of the year, opposite the sun in Cancer. So, often I think an important time, making decisions about relationships for both these signs. I like sort of making decisions under the light of the full moon when head and heart can be balanced. It can bring a sense of clarity at its best. Do you
Hmm.
like this full moon?
I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking, first of all, I noticed that Uranus and Venus will be in conjunction in that midweek of July. They'll be together. And I love that. Okay. So
Mm,
that's welcoming Uranus into Gemini. It's like for some Geminis, that's the beginning of or for some Geminis, for some Sagittarians, that feels like the beginning of a love affair to me,
mm,
you know,
mm,
um, or for some
mm.
Aquarians,
Aquarius.
something
Mm,
wonderful happens. Like there's something, exciting is given birth to in that mid-July period. Or something for Aquarians, again, something,
Mm,
a wonderful creative project, which may be what this Uranus and Gemini is for you. And when I say
mm,
creative project, I mean, you may be coding a massive thing. It's not getting out your paintbrush
mm.
necessarily, but it just has this, isn't it? I love the fact that Uranus is greeted by Venus as he comes into Gemini. But onto the full moon. So I noticed that with that full moon, that this is on one of the ongoing things underneath that. Of course, it's a full moon in Capricorn, which is always rather serious in the middle of
Mm,
July, and we kind of need that, don't we? Reminded
mm.
of the of earthiness, because there's not quite enough earth at the moment for me,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
this
that earthiness of the full moon helps.
yeah, yeah, and it's in a wide trine to the Mars in Virgo, so there is some groundedness there, isn't there?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's you can just, and even when we're talking about this month's astrology, I can feel the energy rising. It's like you want to talk fast and what? So much to say and do and think about. So yeah, I think, come back down to earth on that full moon. Do a lovely full moon ritual as well. We've got so many full moon rituals around here now.
Have
And
you?
it's quite, it is lovely. People sitting around a fire pit, sharing,
Mm.
coming together.
Mm.
It's so nice. It's so nice. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
I would say it's a beautiful grounding full moon to connect
mm,
to Mother Earth. If you want,
yeah, yeah,
that's what it feels like to me, with all of this very high fiery energy and airy energy and watery energy, frankly. This all the other elements are very stirred up, right?
mm,
And so
mm, mm.
we need to bring things back down a bit on the full moon.
Yeah, and it's all the other elements that have got these new beginnings, isn't it? That's where the big major planetary shifts are. It's interesting for Taurus as well. I think this period, it's kind of like, is there more of a settling in a way with Uranus leaving your star sign? Are you able to kind of move on to the next stage in a way? It could be quite a big shift for Taurus with Uranus moving out of your sign.
I think it's
Fine.
sort of less agitated. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
great, I think, for a lot of Taurians. It got you out
Mm,
of your comfort zone. Maybe it's a time to settle back into your comfort zone, my dear
mm.
Taurians.
Yeah, they love the comfort zone, don't they? They love finding stability and
Yeah,
groundedness. So very much using this full moon to do that.
yeah.
Um, okay, we've been talking quite a lot, Christina.
I know we have, but there's just so much,
Ooh,
isn't there?
there
And
is so much, so much. Mercury's not retrograde by this full moon, is it? No, it's got another week. It's got until the 18th, but will be in its shadow. So you doing anything special on the solstice?
I think we're going to a barbecue
Okay. Okay. This I have to
down the
say,
road.
very nice. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a time to honor the sun, isn't it? So
yeah.
barbecues, fire pits, candles, bask in the sun. There's a ceremony here in Hastings. Hastings has got so much going on, where some people are doing 108 sun salutes at sunrise on the West Hill.
Why 108?
Because it's a special number and I can't remember that bit. But
Okay.
that's what they're doing. I may go up and join them for a couple.
I was going to say, that sounds exhausting to me.
I don't think I'm
Um,
fit enough to do 108, but wow, what a way to, that some people be rushing off to Stonehenge, but a lovely way to welcome in
mm,
the solstice. So,
yeah,
Cancer season.
it's the sun at the height of its power,
Yeah,
the sun opening this season.
yeah, it is. All right. Shall we end there, my lovely?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to see you.
Yeah, and you too. And thank you
And
everyone for joining us. Please share this far and wide. Review us. We'd love it to get out there more in the world,
mm, yeah,
wouldn't we?
yeah. So you have to press click like and whatever, all those things. Give us a
Yeah.
5-star review, etc.
Okay.
Okay, see you next month.
Yeah, see you next month. Happy solstice. Bye.
Bye.